Hey everybody, welcome to Vacuum Wars. Today I'm comparing two robot vacuums that I keep seeing on bestseller lists online, the OKP Life K2 and the Lefant M201. They are bestsellers, probably because they are so inexpensive. In fact, they are two of the cheapest robot vacuums I've ever reviewed. And despite the fact that they look very similar and are almost certainly made using some of the same components and maybe even in the same factory, they manage to be very different robot vacuums, with one of them being a passably good buy for the price and the other not being very good at all. So links in the description, and let's get started. Let's start off with the similarities, and as I said, they're both cheap, and they are currently listed at basically the same price. Usually when robot vacuums are this cheap, they are designed for hard floors only, and that is the case with both of these. So instead of a traditional spinning brush roller, which helps to agitate carpets, they just have an air intake surrounded by rubber guides. So while it's possible for these to sweep up debris on the top of very low pile carpets, they are pretty much just for hard floors. If you have mostly carpets in your home, you will not be satisfied with either of these options, as I will show later. Besides the obvious similarity of their exterior shell looking very similar, they also have the same size dustbin, the same app software, the same stated battery life at 100 minutes on low power, they both can be started and stopped with Amazon Alexa, and they have the same stated suction power at 1800 pascals. I found their power was similar to one another with the suction and airflow tests that I did. These numbers were about average for robots with brushes, but I would say they were a little below average for similar hard floor only robots, where I expect to see more airflow at least, since there is not a brush blocking its path. It should also be noted that the OKP had 3 power settings, a low, medium, and high, where the Lefant only had one, which I will call high power for comparison's sake. Because of that lack of a brush, they both did above average with the crevice pickup test, where the lack of a brush and the nature of their intakes, which creates a good seal on hard floors, allowed them to do a bit better than the competition here. They also both use only infrared sensors instead of the more typical infrared sensors in combination with a bump sensor. In practice, it didn't make much of a difference that I saw. They avoided walls when the walls were directly in front of their sensors, and only ran up on furniture and such that was out of range of their infrared sensors. But the real story here is with the differences, and starting with the hardware differences, they had a slightly different design of the guides around the intake, and the OKP has 2 side brushes instead of only 1 on the Lefant. The number of side brushes usually isn't that big of a deal, but when the robot is essentially a sweeper of hard floors, it does make a difference. In the pickup test, the OKP was superior to the Lefant in terms of pure pickup ability. They were similar in that they both did the job on hard floors and that they could pick up the same types and sizes of debris, but the OKP was just a better cleaner in my opinion. I did test them on carpets as well, and they both did pretty bad. I could imagine they would do better on very low carpets, but as I said, they're just not meant for carpets. For example, on the carpet deep clean test, where I embed sand into medium pile carpet, easily the worst scores I've ever seen on this test, with the average being around 73% or so. Another interesting difference is their navigation. There are really only 2 types of navigation in the robot vacuum world. Smart navigation, where robots clean in row by row lines, often using cameras or lasers to map out your house. This is a newish feature that's typically seen on more expensive robots. Budget robots, on the other hand, will normally use what I call random navigation, where they use an algorithm to bounce around more or less randomly. I don't mind random robots. In fact, I've found that they can often clean a single room just about as fast and as well as a smart robot. The OKP had 2 navigation options, a smart option and a random option. The random option was pretty good. It got decent coverage in a fair amount of time, pretty much what I would expect from a robot in this price range. It also has a smart option which tries to mimic what an expensive robot does, but it's pretty bad at it. Definitely not a feature I would use. The Lefant, on the other hand, does not have an option for the random navigation, or if it does, I couldn't find it in the app. Instead, its default is to do like the OKP secondary setting and pretend like it's a smart robot. And the results are very poor coverage. Like the OKP, in this mode it starts off okay, but it quickly devolves, so I'm not sure why random navigation wasn't an option. I suspect it could be added as an app update since the apps are basically identical, They both did not do well with the human hair tests, with hair getting caught in their intakes, which was disappointing because one of the reasons to get a robot without a brush roller is to avoid hair tangles. The bottom line for me is that the OKP Life is a passably good robot for the price. It's efficient at pickup on hard floors, it has decent coverage on its random mode, but it's not to be used for carpets. The Lefant M201 may look similar, but slight hardware differences and its pickup and coverage were significantly worse than the OKP. I understand why people would want a cheaper robot vacuum, of course, but I would recommend spending a bit more for a cheaper Roomba, like the Roomba 675 or 694, or the Eufy 11S, which has consistently done well in my budget robot vacuum tests. Links in the description to all of these and more, and be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars before you leave. Thanks for watching.